Mocast, the podcast beyond World of Warcraft.
We're live. We're live.
We're live, man. Let's go.
All right. Welcome everybody to the first episode of Mocast with yours truly, Marcelian.
And Flame here, and I am nervous as a little schoolgirl, man.
Yeah, I cannot contain my smile. I have this stupid smile right now. It's like, wow. We never actually expected this, but you know, our guest, and you've probably seen the thumbnail and the title already, but our guest was one of the first to say yes. So without further ado, let's all give a warm welcome to Mr. Nobbel.
Hey.
Howdy, everybody. You couldn't see it, but I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm so excited about this. I'm the first one, yeah?
You are the first one. And it's been, I mean, it's still a journey for this, but you're like among the first to say 100% yes. It's like, okay, with the details and how it's going to go, whatever. But man, it's going to be hard to contain our fanboys and boys and gals. So please do understand. It's not going to be heavy edited or something like that. So anyways, all right, Nobbel, thank you so much for coming here. We're going to have some nice stuff to talk about, and obviously, for the 5 people who don't know who you are, would you mind giving yourself a little bit of a bio or something? Like, who are you? What do you do?
I hope there are more than 5 people out there. Otherwise, oof. Hello, please come watch me. Hi, everybody. I'm Nobbel, and I am a big fan of the Warcraft story. And at some point, I had the hobby of telling the story behind the game. I do on a weekly basis. I take a character, I take a zone, I take an event, a book, and I pretty much break it down to as understandable as possible. And the guy with the funny accent tells the story on a weekly basis. And that hobby kind of got out of hand. And before I knew it, 8 years later, I've been doing this full time now and loving every moment of it. So if you're interested in the Warcraft lore, one day my goal for the channel is to cover every bit of lore that the Warcraft universe has to offer. So one day I'm gonna go.
Well, you should definitely do that, everybody. I've actually been a big fan of your channel for I don't know how many years it is. And one little funny thing is I didn't even tell Marcelian this, but
here we go.
Before we actually started doing our little YouTube, I had an attempt of doing my own videos, and you were actually the inspiration for my ever first YouTube video where it was about StarCraft, with StarCraft lore. And I watched a lot of your stuff, and when I started doing it, and I was like, oh my god, but Nobbel puts like all of these images, has all of these recorded from all of these places, like this is a lot more work than I thought initially it would be. So yeah, that's kind of what got me started, man. Really much respect for everything that you did, and I'm a big fan. I don't think I've missed a video. Maybe lately I haven't been able to catch all of them, but I think I've watched pretty much everything you have a couple of times.
It's been busy times with the alpha, but you said you started it. Does that mean that you're no longer doing it? Because that would be a shame.
Well, what happened was I was in university and I was a big StarCraft nerd, and I really love the lore there. It's definitely not as rich as it is for Warcraft. And I started doing it. It's, you know, it turned out as the first video would turn out for anybody, pretty much. And it was nice, but I never actually thought about it. I did it because I enjoyed it, and I didn't pursue it because I had other things on my mind at the time. I was studying for my bachelor's degree and things like that, and a few other real life things. But then once I met Marcelian and we started doing WoW, that's when we got into like the meaty, greedy part of all of it.
I mean, I think
best way to start though, because you love something, that's the best motivation to get into something like this.
Oh yeah.
Oh, 100%. And I think I can speak for a huge majority of WoW players, especially the WoW community who consumes YouTube stuff. Most of us kind of got the lore from Nobbel. I mean, let's be honest here. All of the stories, all this. I mean, I actually bought my first Chronicles because of Nobbel. So I think we're in a big majority here. All right. Okay. Well, Nobbel. So we're gonna kick it off with World of Warcraft, right? So we're calling this like the World of Warcraft career segment or whatever. So, like, before World of Warcraft, like, or let me just ask you, like, what got you into World of Warcraft for the first time? Like, well, what got you like hooked? That's it. I'm doing this. I'm playing this. This is.
Me into World of Warcraft goes back to classic days. Of course, classic player, gotta announce it. I had spent a summer with a mate of mine playing Star Wars Galaxies, another MMORPG. And this buddy of mine was like, Nobbel, check out this trailer, this classic World of Warcraft trailer. I really want to play this game. After just spending an entire summer in a video game, I thought to myself, do I really want to spend another summer on another game? And at this point in time, I had no clue what Blizzard was, no clue what Warcraft was. I didn't play the RTSs, no books, no nothing. I just saw that trailer. But when I saw how that hunter on that hills in Idaforge with his bear and just the cutscene, I was like, oh, okay, this is something I need to check out. So we did. And fast forward 15 years later, we're still playing. But at first, funny enough, I didn't actually really enjoy World of Warcraft.
Really?
I logged in. Yeah, I logged in, and we got to keep in mind, the buddy of mine had already picked a human. So faction was easily chosen. If I had known about the Horde and the shamans, I would have probably chosen Hordes. But whatever. Alliance was the way to go. He was a human mage. So I looked at the character creation screen, and I'm like, I really like the hunter, the dwarf hunter. In my mind, if my enemy has to deal with my pet first before they could come at me, as happened in the cinematic, it's a great benefit. Not knowing that they can just ignore my pet. That's a whole different thing. So then I started creating a character, and I had like dwarf and night elf, I believe was at the time. And I saw from the night elves that if you died, you became a wisp and you would move faster. And I was like, I'm going to die a lot. I suck at this game. That is going to be a great benefit. So I made a night elf, not knowing that if you make a night elf and your friend is a human, you're half a continent away and you're not going to be partying with one another for a couple of levels. So I log in, and you get in the starting area as a hunter. You do like auto shot and everything's slow, and sometimes you melee something. I was like, after an hour, I was like, this sucks, so I turned it off. But something in the back of my mind gnawed at it, and I was like, it was kind of fun. So I log in 2 hours, 3 hours, a day. And before I knew it, I was playing for 1 year full time. Like 1 year, I have just done nothing but classic. Yeah.
Wow. It's like auto attacking with the hunter. Just
Auto shoot.
spend up to 1 year. Man, I think a lot of players, especially right nowadays, I don't know any super young players. So a lot of the actual current community will be like from the majorities that started off in classic or either BC, like I started in BC. So it's interesting because World of Warcraft, at least in my eyes, at this point has become this sort of like niche, because it's not that popular anymore. It's still like probably the biggest MMO, but it became this sort of like acquired taste, if you will, like how jazz music is. I always compare World of Warcraft to jazz music because jazz music was super famous in the 20s and 30s and even 40s, but then it didn't dwindled off, and right now there's only a couple of few, but the couple of few that sustain it like really keep it alive. And this is how I see World of Warcraft nowadays, is basically our jazz music, because again, maybe they'll do something with Shadowlands and I'm pretty sure they're focusing this with the new leveling experience and stuff. Of course, getting new players in, but for some time now, I didn't feel they really cared that much anymore for new players. But that's a different discussion.
Like you mentioned, MMORPGs, I honestly wonder if the market is still there for MMORPGs, if it's really still that viable. But then again, Final Fantasy is not doing bad either. Not as big as Warcraft became at some point, but it's not doing bad. It's got a player base. And over the years, like especially if you compare it to Classic, I know a lot of people really like that system where you have to spend a lot of time to get anywhere. But these days, they've made it easier and easier to get into the game, because you're right, there is that idea behind World of Warcraft that you need to know life it in order to get enjoyment out of it. Like playing World of Warcraft, really, it seems like such a chore, and it's like, it's definitely improved over the years. And the new leveling experience, hopefully that's going to be a catalyst for players like, okay, I never really tried out World of Warcraft, but now there's going to be a tutorial, there's actually going to be explanation. Hopefully, we're going to find out.
Yeah, the new leveling system is actually pretty good, and it's kind of weird because the circles that I was mostly in when I grew up, and I also started from Classic, it felt like everybody was into like this MMO thing. MMOs definitely started before WoW, but when WoW came out, it was like this new sensation. It was kind of like a fad. It's like, commercials were running on TV. People were like printing magazines. You'd read it everywhere. People who never had any connection to gaming knew about World of Warcraft. I was like, this is actually moving things. And it was I think it was just the time at the time. MMOs were really hot. Well, right now you have things like MOBAs and team-based FPS, and I think they're kind of like taking a little bit out of the scene. Maybe that's why we don't feel like WoW is the hot stuff. But I mean, it does have the player base. It's not how many people like to call it a dead game. It's far from it, and I feel like Shadowlands is actually bringing a lot of fire back into the game.
Hopefully. Well, on that note,
that game that's been going around for so long, and as you mentioned, like people, the player base seem to be more interested in and out kind of game style, like 20 minutes max, and you play your game. Yeah. And funny enough, even though people revere Classic as like, oh, that was the hardcore days of World of Warcraft, part of the reason why Classic became so popular was because it was the most accessible MMORPG on the market at the time, because all the other games were even worse than World of Warcraft. Is why it grew, plus the whole Warcraft 3 background and whatnot. It just, the perfect storm in it. There are so many MMORPGs on the market that have just been devoured by the beast that is World of Warcraft.
Yes, that is true. A lot of them came and went. But we were about to get to this. So, Nobbel, what is so far your favorite expansion in World of Warcraft? And, give at least 3 major reasons or something. You must have a favorite.
I do have favorites, but it's difficult to pick one. I think at this point in time, my favorite would have to be Legion, with the majority of the reason being that it just offered such a massive amount of content to play through, with order halls, class mounts, class weapons, story. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It definitely had its faults, but Legion was really one where I could sink my teeth in and play it. Next to that, Mr. Pandaria, definitely a close runner-up. I loved how Mr. Pandaria, like there was a joke in Warcraft 3 with a couple of Pandaren here and there, a couple of Easter eggs. Yeah. And they were like, you know what, we're going to take those Easter eggs and we're just going to build up a universe, a story, people, culture, lands. Mind-blowing, and especially because it offered so much more than just the regular raiding and PvPing endgaming. I haven't really raided since my classic days, with now the exception of Battle for Azeroth. I actually picked it up again. Nice. So for somebody who is... Sorry?
I said it's nice you picked up raiding again.
I actually really, really enjoyed it, but somebody who would be considered casual, you look at things that you can do besides the standard endgame. And for example, Wars of Draenor, there wasn't anything to do endgame besides raiding, which wasn't the greatest success in my opinion. But Mr. Pandaria had like pet battles and the little farm and scenarios and all that good stuff. Little Brawlers Guild, little things that people don't care about. And then Legion with the Mage Tower. Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah.
I love those little side things that they add to it, besides the regular PvP and raiding endgame. Yeah.
But what about story-wise? I mean, is there like an expansion for you that really like made you like, wow, this universe is like going so deep? Is there any expansion that had like a really good backbone story for you, because you're like super into it?
Well, as I mentioned, when I joined in Classic, I had no clue what Warcraft was, so I didn't care about the story. Right? I didn't know. I didn't care about the story in Classic. I didn't care about the story in Burning Crusade, but it wasn't until Wrath of the Lich King.
Hello.
You walk up to the Wrath Gate.
Here we go.
You walk up to the Wrath Gate and like an in-game cutscene, because before that moment, like we're now spoiled, right? We expect Lords of War and audio dramas and in-game cutscenes of voice acting. Our trailers, young ones, was like a random ass human walking up to a necropole and be like, this is your story. And that is if you even found it on YouTube. But Wrath of the Lich King, Wrath Gate, in-game cinematic. Ulvar, Sourfang charging up to the Wrath Gate with the Lich King. And I sat there and I was like, who are these people? What is going on here? Like, what, Sylvanas? I've heard that name before. So I started researching Wikipedia, Wowpedia. I was starting researching. Before I knew it, I had 50 tabs open. I'm starting to connect all these things that I've seen in Classic and Burning Crusade. I was like, oh, that's how that's connected, and that's how that's connected. I started picking up the books and the comics, and I kept up to date what was happening. That is the catalyst for me, where I was like, okay, what is the world behind it? What is the story?
All right, so it started off really with Wrath.
I think it probably started with Wrath with a lot of people. I mean, Classic didn't really have much of a story to begin with, and TBC was kind of like dabbling a little bit into the end of the Warcraft 3 campaign. So it was nice. TBC had kind of like, it felt more like tying loose ends than an actual story with plot and characters like that. It was nice, but I mean, you cannot really argue the power of Arthas as a character, which to this day probably still remains one of their best written characters so far, my opinion.
100%. Yeah, and TBC was more like, remember these people from Warcraft 3? Well, you get to fight them now. Enjoy. Like, why? And then Wrath of the Lich King, where around every corner there's like a Lich King taunting you, and it's like, you're not ready yet. Just fight me at Ice Crown. It's gonna be great. There's a story there. Deep connections to the Warcraft universe, the Warcraft 3 universe. A lot of people, even to this day, are like, yeah, that is definitely some of the best storytelling that they've done in-game. I really wish I was in raiding back then, because I wasn't. Like, for me, it was the Argent Tournament catch-up, and then I asked my guildies, what do I do now? And they're like, go raiding. And I was like, I don't want to raid. Well, then don't do anything. So I'm like, okay, cool. I really wish, because a lot of people like Ice Crown and Ulduar, they think fondly back to it.
Yeah, it's well, we kind of did a video on our channel regarding like what's your favorite expansion to get like the vibe from the community and stuff, and with no surprise, Wrath kind of comes up always on top. I don't know, for some reason it had like it was sort of the perfect storm in that time and context of the world as well, I guess, because we were still lingering on a lot of fantasy stuff and stuff like that. But okay, so just to close out the chapter here for World of Warcraft for you, Nobbel, I want to ask you another question. What is your fondest memory in World of Warcraft? The most vivid, I don't know, impactful, call it whatever you want to call it. Something that really comes into your mind when you're thinking back in my day.
Back in my day, what I think fondest of, and this goes throughout all the expansions, it would have to be the people that you meet and the people you have conversations with, and sometimes even build friendships with.
Yeah.
100%. And if it be from Classic, where we spend till like 5 in the morning sitting in Iron Forge, just chatting away. These days, a little bit more casual, but still, you meet people. And if you spend 2 hours a night raiding, or you do things together, bonds form, experiences shared. It's very similar to going to a bar or going to your favorite gym or whatnot. You meet with people, even if it's online.
Yep.
And a lot of meaningful connections have come out of that.
It's so much better than what I was about to say.
What were you going to say? Was it a kill?
The best answer yet. Well, I guess the game impacted each of us differently, and I think at a core, at least for some of the older players, it had like an emotional impact. It came at different points in our life. So I started with Classic, and for me it was discovering like this whole new world. I remember the first person that I found out in game, I was a Tauren in Mulgar, and I found an orc. He's like, wait a minute, what are orcs doing here? He's like, I tapped him, are you a real player? And he was like, I think so. I still remember that. I remember what I studied in college, but I remember that.
Don't get me started. When you are an Alliance member, you go through Darkshore into Ashenvale, and all of a sudden these two massive creatures stand before you with a skull, and you're like, hello, and then they start typing, it's like zug zug, and it's like, I don't understand you. Oh, I'm dead. Okay, cool. Or the first time that you do like the wetlands run, and you learn that there is more than just trees, and then there's like the mountains of Idaforge with snow. Are you kidding me? There's snow in this game?
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest hits people have gotten with WoW in Classic, and why maybe so many people still remember it fondly is because when WoW Classic came out, it came out with like a whole world, right? As opposed to right now where we get like a zone or two with a new island or two. Back then it was like a full world. You had every geographical type, terrain, weather, you name it. It's like it had Tolkien level fantasy to pretty much modern type fantasy. It was pretty good.
All right. Now, Flame, do you want to take over? We're getting serious now, okay? We're moving into the deep stuff, the deep shit.
Yeah. We
Let me take a sip.
Go ahead.
We talked a lot about WoW, but at the end of the day, both you and us are YouTubers, our content creators. We're trying to put our creativity out there to create something that can hopefully inspire people and get them to maybe experience a part of the game that they haven't yet. So it's not a lot of people know exactly what being a YouTuber means, and a lot of people would like to. So from your perspective, and you coming here, like how do you balance your YouTube, your personal life, and everything that you do?
And
online?
Twitch as well, because you also stream a lot.
Yeah, Twitch as well, yeah.
I'll let you know once I find the answer.
That's the best answer ever.
It's extremely difficult. Like the way that it started with me, I never set out, because there's now a generation rising up that is like, ooh, I've seen PewDiePie grow big, or instant creator here, and it's set in stone that YouTube and Twitch can actually be a very successful career path. Back in the day, I looked at people from the game station, like Total Biscuit, Jesse Cox, Dodger, Crendor, and I got really inspired by them, especially like Jesse Cox and Total Biscuit back then had like the competition during Cataclysm. And I was like, if I ever get the opportunity to do a beta for World of Warcraft, I am going to rock it as hard as they did. And wouldn't you know it, Mr. Pandaria runs around, and they had this promotion that if you subscribe for like a year, you would get guaranteed beta access. I was on that. I was this is my shot. I'm going to do it. And eventually I got into the beta and I started testing it. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. I had like a viewer request from somebody. I asked people like, what do you want to see? And somebody requested, can you show me what auto loot and group loot is? So I literally went into the Death Knight starting area. I killed a pack of mobs. I clicked on them and I was like, this is group looting. And then I did it in slow motion. And it's like, see it?
Some editing skills right there, baby.
It was amazing. But by that time, I was like, Wrath of the Lich King had come and gone. I was into the lore. I've also made a couple of guides in between, like how to solo, because that is how I got back into the game with Wrath of the Lich King. And I had a love for making these videos and explaining things. And there was one video at the end of the Mr. Pandaria time period, which was called Faramore Destroyed, ? Really clickbaity. There was like a thumbnail of Jaina tied to a chair with like a torch to her face. And that video picked up because it was still discussing and speculating about what is going to happen with the bombing of Faramore. We had no idea who's going to survive, who's going to die, what is actually going to happen here. And from that video, I learned that there is an interest in the world of Warcraft, the story behind it. And that is when I got off the idea of, okay, well, cool. I know that I love making videos and I know that I love talking about the storyline. Let's combine those things and let's do it. And that is how the videos came to be. But then to the question, like, what does it take to be a YouTuber? Entirely depends on the type of content. Eh?
And a streamer as well, because you also stream a lot.
A streamer, like in the case of a YouTuber, it entirely depends on what kind of content you're going to make. But I have found that it takes a lot of time. Like on average, a video of mine for the Monday takes around 48 to 72 working hours. Start to finish, scripting, voicing, editing. It's just a lot of time. That's 3 days of your life that you're not going to get back that week. On top of that, you got your promotion, you got your streams, you got your emails and your messages and all the other things that come next to it. So it's a massive time investment, and I do not regret a single moment of it, and I want to spend a lot more. Because there's a massive difference. Yeah, right? Like there's a massive difference between working for a boss and putting your hours into them or into your own company and your own little project and your own little channel, because the feedback on YouTube is instant. You will know what people think of your video. They will know if you like it or not. And that's also part of the reason why I got into streaming. Because streaming, my very first one was just me, 3 of my friends, and I was like, look, guys, I can let you hear the music that I'm playing and showing what I'm doing at the same time. Isn't that amazing? Like, that was my first stream. But then once I got like an audience on YouTube, which was just incredible to see, there were a lot of questions, like, what is this? What is that? And I was like, hang on, if I do it on Twitch, I could do it in real time. So I turned on the stream, people showed up, and that's pretty much what I've been doing. So for me, explaining how to become bigger on Twitch is really difficult because I already had a following on YouTube. So that's a little bit difficult to explain. But in everything, I would recommend, if you're going to do it, it's going to take a lot of your time and a lot of your effort. And most likely it is not going to pay off, at least not at the start, maybe not ever. But if you jump into this because you have a passion for it, be it for video making, be it for storytelling, be it for vlogging about your dog's life, it does not matter. If you have a passion for it that you want to share, you will have the investment. No matter how many people try to bring you down in the comments, no matter how many people try to lift you up in the comments, you do it because you have a love for it. And regardless if you get 1 view or millions, you will be able to make what you love. And there's nothing better than actually putting out there what you enjoy doing.
You guys should note that down. Like whoever is like aspiring to do something on YouTube or Twitch, this is some good ass
Those
advice.
are bullet points indeed. I actually resonate a lot with what you said because I was actually speaking with some people the last couple of days about YouTube, and I was finding it a little bit difficult to put it into words. And I think the way you phrased it was the best. And I feel like I have to really say that I think people gravitate towards passion and passionate people. They might have to align a little bit with their interests, but I think passion draws people in, and you can tell that you can read that on a person when they're passionate. And you also said that you've been doing this for quite a while. When did you actually know that you can do this full time, or when did you take the leap to like, okay, I'm doing this full time?
I've been making videos ever since the Burning Crusade, but when I say making videos, like my first videos was guild events, right? We would go to like Elwyn Forest or the Gurubashi Arena and get naked and hit each other.
Everybody has their first videos. We all know that, yeah.
Those were my first. That then flowed into solo guides, like how to solo bosses. Most of those I've had to take down because of copyright. Like copyright has changed a lot on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And then somewhere around the time of Warlords of Draenor was when I was like, okay, I can now make the jump into, I'm going to go full time.
Full time. Okay. So it was like, what was 2014? Oh, six years ago.
Was it
Warlords of Draenor release dates? Let's see here. 2014, yeah.
Oh, you have been full time 6 years. There you go. But one other question regarding this, Nobbel. Like, do you see yourself doing this forever? Like,
I would love to.
I know, but do you have like perhaps any other prospects, or are you, I don't know, in the background having, investing in something else or working on something else? Is there any plan B, or do you just go with the flow, how the water goes?
I'm not completely without a safety net. Like right now, all my time is being invested into my channel. And as I mentioned before, my goal is to one day cover every little bit of lore that Warcraft has to offer. And that goal is one day going to be completed, right? Okay with that. If that happens, that is fine. And then my hope is that I potentially can do other kind of stories, like other franchises. I feel like storytelling is pretty much my thing, right? So I'm hoping that I could do something with that. Maybe Twitch will pick off. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work and people are like, you know what, I just watched you for your lore, I don't care about anything else, that is fine. Thank you very much for sticking with me for as long as you have. That happens, then I still have my own education. I don't have a master's, but I do have an education. I do have work experience before YouTube, as well as I would love to go into higher education. I've been thinking about potentially educating myself on dietitian, if that's the right word for it, like the way that you eat and eating patterns and whatnot. Because, I've been dealing with weight my whole life, and I'm like, that is something I apply in my real life, also help other people with, again, that section of helping people. Yeah. Because when I was a kid and people asked me, like, what do you want to be? I don't know, Pokemon Master? I don't know. 32, almost 33. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'll see where the road's going to take me, but I get lucky enough to follow those passions. And when people ask me, like, don't you find it risky? Like, you're putting everything in YouTube and Twitch. My reply is, yes, it's risky, but at the same time, you could be fired anywhere, at any time. Why wouldn't I enjoy every single day that's given to me?
A very mature look at it.
We can actually, get these words of wisdom and put it over here.
We encountered similar situations as well, because not a lot of people can vibe with this, but I think that this is kind of necessary to achieve your dream, or to live out your goals and achieve your goals. You have to like dedicate as much, because if you complete your goal, then that's something for you. That's a tick on your box. That's a personal life goal that you achieved. It's personal satisfaction. That's great. But if you don't put in your 100% and you don't get it, then you'll always have that hanging back. And giving it everything, giving it your all, you can even see that. You can even see that on people. You can see it. You can see their passion. You can see that they're putting their entire energy. And I was about to point out when you said that if people are gonna stop being interested in videos, I've seen the Diablo coverages that you did with the lore. So hey man, you always have other franchises, and you always have me as a viewer for sure.
Both
awesome.
of us.
And like you mentioned, I do want to put like a little asterisk, and I love both of you, by the way. I do want to put an asterisk. Sometimes you hear like horror stories of somebody that sold everything they got to get a streaming PC, and they're like, okay, I'm a streamer now. This is where my income is going to come from. Be reasonable about it. Make sure that you have backup plans, because again, there is a high probability that you are going to be part amongst the bigger group that doesn't make it, rather than the ones that do make it. Does that mean that you should not try? No, of course not. Be smart about it. Finish educations, have backup plans. Make sure that this is not, your final straw, so to say, because you will fall. You will have nothing to catch you.
Yeah. And don't quit your day job if you're planning on starting this. Make them at the same time, because you never know. All right. So going a little bit in more the personal side of things, Nobbel. So when you take a break from editing videos, streaming, I don't know, everything that, because I'm pretty sure you must have at least 2 hours in your day. What is like an off day look like for Nobbel? Like, what does Nobbel do outside of all of this?
I love unplugging from time to time. My current work schedule is Monday till Saturday, and I make sure that Sunday is always up. And I try to stay away from the internet. It's not always as easy. And when I unplug, I hang out with friends. I do a daily walk, especially in Corona time. Walking is so nice. I try to get out of the house a bit more. Other video games are definitely enjoyable as well. And that's the odd part. When it's current gameplay, like for example, when I'm covering Battle for Azeroth or World of Warcraft, it's current stuff and there's still stuff to do in the game, I will just take my day off and keep playing because I still love World of Warcraft very, very much. That doesn't feel like doing your job at all. That's just chill time. You're hanging out with friends, but it's off stream, so it's a little bit more mellow. You don't have to talk 24/7. It's a lot more mellow, a lot more enjoyable. So that's what I've been picking up. I've also been picking up exercising a lot more. Like I mentioned, I've been dealing with the weight thing. Corona, everybody is getting a couple of extra pounds.
Yeah, yes, sir.
extra pounds of social distancing.
Yeah, exactly. Stay away from me, please. So that's been great as well. And exercise is a really nice way of just getting that frustration out or just chilling for a little bit. But then there are days where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna veggie and I'm gonna lay on the couch and watch Netflix all day. Those days are amazing as well.
I can relate
don't
to that.
tap me, man. But you mentioned other games. Like, what other games do you play actually? Like when you have the time apart from WoW? Like, is there something like really?
Recently, I've been playing The Last of Us 1, which I really enjoyed because, Last of Us 2, everybody hyped, and then everybody was like, just avoid it. So I definitely want to try out 2. Even if I'm going to burn my fingers, I want to know it for myself. Binding of Isaac has absorbed a lot of hours of my time.
Really?
Great game. Yeah. Oh, there's like 600 hours in Binding of Isaac. I love that game.
Oh, shit. Hello.
I love that game so much. Tower defense games are great. Even Overwatch and StarCraft and stuff like that. I'm a little bit across the board, with of course WoW being the main thing that I play. Legend of Zelda. Oh, I'm a big Zelda fan. Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. Do you have the Switch? Did you play Breath of the Dying? Breath of the Dying. Where I see Breath of the
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. That's an essence from BFF.
We're gonna do Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Dying is the essence, man. It's fine. It's you grinded it too much. I can tell.
All right.
I can't wait for the expansion either. No, that's a great franchise. But it's all across the board. And of course, people ask me, are you as invested in other franchises' story as you are in WoW? Like I'm familiar with the story behind Zelda, and I'm familiar with the story behind BioShock, and I'm familiar, but none of them as deep as it goes with Warcraft.
It figures, and I mean, we have to say, like the Warcraft universe and lore at this point is so vast, and it and now they're even like with Shadowlands, they're making even it bigger, like exploring the more of the cosmology and stuff is going to be really interesting to see what's that all about.
There's a lot of personality into the roster, and I think this is probably one of the main hooks that people have had is like, I'm taking a break. Yeah, I know you're taking a break. You're probably going to be back in a couple of months. We know that. We've all been through that.
We've all been there.
And there's always like a little hook, and it felt like there were points when I was like, why am I playing WoW when I'm not playing Final Fantasy or some other MMOs? Like, yeah, but WoW has that charm, that charm that's built by the colors, by the music, by the characters, by the story, by everything. And I feel like that builds a really cool personality that I don't think any other game can match at this point.
Yeah,
and to each their own taste, ain't it? Like for me, I've been of the mindset of I've invested so much time in WoW. Why would I want to do that in another MMORPG, right? That just seems like a big time. But then there are people that just enjoy the world of Final Fantasy or Lord of the Rings or WildStar or whatever else has come along the path. And all the power to them, ain't it? If you're playing WoW and you're actively disliking your chill time, because gaming is spare time, is free time, and it's as sparse as it gets. Go play something else. You don't have to play it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, up until this point, I think we can all safely assume like Nobbel is a pretty chill guy. I mean, you see him on stream, you see him now on the podcast. You know, he talks a lot, and you can like literally read the passion off of his words. All right, you can see that it goes through the video signal and audio. But one thing, Nobbel, is there anything that can really trigger you? Do you ever get angry? You don't seem the type, but is there anything that like can really pooch out?
I haven't been angry in like I don't get angry easily because I'm pretty mellow and I'm always in the back of mind, especially since you're dealing with like a Warcraft franchise or video games.
Yeah,
it's video games. What are we talking about, right? It doesn't matter as much when people leave nasty comments about the way that I talk or about the way that I do things. It's like, you know, it's the internet. So, you know?
Yeah.
But the other day, and this goes into a bit of a... The other day, I actually got really mad at my Discord. And that is actually the first time that they've ever heard me properly mad. This was in the direction of they were making fun of those that were actually coming forward with their abuse stories. Okay. And especially since it just on that day hit me a little bit closer to home, I was like, how dare you? Ooh. And then I used a couple of other profane words. So I got the feedback of, we've never heard you like that before. And you got really angry. And it's like, yeah, sorry, guys, but this just wrong time. Like a joke is a joke. I find comedy is very subjective, but this just went too far. And especially if you're a fan of mine and you're close enough to have you hang out on my Discord, you should have known better. This has been the only time that I actively got really, really angry in my career of making these videos, as far as I remember. Fair enough, sometimes you see something fly by and it makes you irritated, right? Yeah. But most of the time, I try to hold my tongue and be like, nah, I'm not gonna engage.
All right. I can already see the thumbnail for this podcast. Is Nobbel getting angry? What triggers Nobbel? This is gonna be
just a hulking 100%. With my face on it, the Hulk right there.
A green hue over it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, this is pretty much super cool. I like my I mean, I had high expectations, but this is just like flow over. So take it over, Flame. We still have, I don't know, a bit 20 more minutes or something like that. Let's get into stuff that can inspire more, or you know, sharing some cool things. Like okay, I'm gonna start with the first one, then the Flame is gonna carry on with the rest. So now again, it's work related, it's YouTube related, it's, you know, but you obviously now have a lot of experience, you know, doing videos, doing streams, all of this, and also like digging up all of the information and putting bits and pieces and stuff. And my question to you is like, how do you get stuff done? Because this is a big problem. Like you set goals or something, like how do you like get it done?
Well, funny enough, I was really lazy when growing up. And if I could take a day off of work, I was cool. I didn't have to go to work. But over time, you run into things that resonate with you, run into things that you find more fulfilling than just earning that paycheck. And you're like, okay, I'm actually invested in this. That's also what happened with YouTube. I have set for myself the goal of, I want to upload every Monday. And my video needs to be between 15 to 30 minutes, which is detrimental for the YouTube algorithm. It is better to hit the 11, 12 marker. But fine, whatever. It's the goal that I set. And it's about, what do I want to tell? And the motivation, like the muse, the inspiration, you can definitely tell that if you set a goal for yourself, like I need to do the story of Ronin, you're going to sit behind your scripts and you're going to be all day, you're going to be browsing Google and Twitter and Facebook. Oh,
so true.
Really? Really? But when you're inspired, when you had a conversation with somebody about the lore, you're like, oh, that's a really interesting subject. Or just recently something has been added to the game. Or, you know, something that gets that flame going. You'll be sitting there 1 or 2 hours, bam, script is done. Another 2 hours, voiceover is done. Another 2 hours, and oh my God, I'm already going into editing, doing a video in a day. Mental. But that is what happens when you are inspired by something. There's a saying that if you do what you love, you will never work a day, which is just bullshit. There are definitely days that it feels like, oh God, I'm going through the grind, I'm doing the work, but it needs to happen. But at the same time, I have set that goal for myself for the Monday because I know myself, or at least I know the guy that I used to be. If I don't tell myself I need to do this, I might not do it at all. And that would be such a waste because I love doing it. So sometimes you need to get over those hurdles, and sometimes it flows easily. Next to that, I remember when I was in high school, we had like this lesson about how to properly fill in your agenda and how to plan certain things.
Right.
And back then, young Nobbel was sitting back, like, who cares, man? I'll just do it whenever I want to do it. When you get older and your schedule actually becomes limited and all of a sudden all that free time goes out the window, a schedule helps so much. I got a whiteboard behind my PC with like major appointments. Like, for example, I was going to go 2:00 at a podcast. That is on the whiteboard. And I've got like a released list of the videos that I released over the year. And sometimes it's just nice to take in suggestions or to write down for myself, like, okay, this is the month of July. Could be interesting. Will there be something in the Shadowlands? Is there perhaps a world event going on? Or is there perhaps another character that calls to me? And that is kind of how the process works on selecting, like, what am I going to be talking about today? Yeah.
That sounds kind of like how most things should be done. It's not. I agree with. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's not really true. There's going to be difficult.
So far off from the truth.
There are going to be difficult days, and if you want to accomplish what you set out to do, you have to be able to push through those difficult days. Schedule definitely works because I'm actually really close to how you are. I'm very lazy in real life, and I always thought if I don't need to schedule things. Things should come naturally. It's like if they don't come naturally, they're not me. Then I'm forcing myself to be somebody that I'm not. But in reality, like, life doesn't work that way, society doesn't work that way, and time is very limited. And unless you schedule, unless you make a plan, it doesn't really work that way. And you said that, you know, you also have sometimes difficult times. Were there any like stressful times? Maybe you didn't have something to do and you felt like you had to do something. Any like stressful moments that can?
No.
Oh, really?
No, I have never felt like I got nothing to talk about, I got nothing to do, nothing to cover anymore. Quite the opposite. That is another risk. And like I mentioned before, finding a balance between real life and work. I can work 24/7 if I wanted to. There is always something that I can do in my mind to improve my channel, my Twitch, my audience, my connection with other people. But sometimes you need to limit yourself and be like, okay, look, it's 2 a.m. Go to bed. There will be another day tomorrow. It doesn't need to happen right away. There is a certain amount of this needs to happen. And then there's a certain amount of, but I could do this as well, you know? And there's a fine line between finding a balance, because if you run that engine dry, if you run that engine empty, you're sitting there completely exhausted, wired out of your head, you're not going to be producing good content anyways. So why bother, right? You can't giving out if you don't give it to yourself first.
Yeah.
Don't make it dirty, but if it makes sense.
That's a lesson that I'm still struggling to learn. It's easy to go on the other side and get lost in what you do. So yeah, I try to sometimes force myself to take a break, but I really love your attitude, man. It's you actually are preventing a lot of stuff from happening to you just from having a healthier attitude and a perspective and approach to things. That's actually really cool.
These are definitely lessons learned over time, right? Like, how many times do you not see a content creator mention, like, I need to take a break because I've been going 24/7?
Yep.
Because they feel that obligation to their viewers. Because if I'm not constantly on the grind, and this is especially in the streaming area, where they need to be live every single day, 8-10 hours a day, if not more, where is the time to take for yourself and refresh yourself, right?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, man. You have to take care of yourself first, and then you'll be able to help others or entertain others like the way you feel is natural and organic, and you know, it's basically make it a win-win. Because like when you're creating content, YouTube, Twitch, whatever, like ideas will just come all the time, and that can be really overbearing. It's like as you said, Nobbel, it's like you constantly have thoughts on how to improve, how to develop, how to expand and stuff like that. But that can actually at some point can ruin you down, because you're like trying to focus on making the Monday Lore video, and then the idea pops in, you know, doing something else, and then somebody contacts you on Discord, and then somebody gives you a DM on Twitter or whatever. It's a lot of stuff that can really bring you down. So taking care of yourself first, it's the most important thing. Then you can be able to do everything exquisitively. Is that a word? I keep saying exquisitively. I'm pretty sure it's not a word.
We're gonna bank it. But as you said, there's also the part about turning your hobby into your living. So when you start playing other games, like when I play The Last of Us, for example, there's a voice in the back of your mind who's like, I could stream this. I could stream this right now. I could be talking and working and actually building something. But no, if you really have trouble with that, one of the things that I tell myself is I am working right now. I'm working on chilling myself the F out so I can work better tomorrow.
Super cool.
At the end of the day, I can definitely tell, at least from my perspective, your personality plays a big factor into your whole presence in the community. Sure, you talk about lore and you're a storyteller, but even storytellers have a certain personality, have the way that they talk, the way that they imprint the image, the information. So you have to work on that, and taking a break, working on yourself, kind of it's still productive. It's still something that needs to happen, because if you're not, like you said, if you're not in the right state of mind, if you're like distracted, then everything gets affected. And for better or worse, believe it or not, I think a lot of people simply come just for your personality as well.
Yeah. I mean, is it safe to say that everybody loves Nobbel? I mean, how can you not love the guy?
Let's not over-exaggerate now. Come on now. I'm just little old me. No, of course not. If everybody loves you, you're doing something wrong. And if everybody hates you, you're doing something wrong. So let's not be extreme, because there are people that cannot stand the way that I talk or the way that I
I've read the
present
comments
videos.
on your videos, man. It's I know.
Yeah, and that's fine, because there are so many people. That's also why. Hello, hey there. That's also why there's a certain amount. That's not for everybody, but there are some people out there that really want to see conflict and strife between content creators. For example, there's somebody else doing lore videos. I'm going to tell Nobbel, like, Nobbel, they're telling lore videos. And as long as you're not mirror uploading my videos, welcome.
Fine. Yeah.
There's so many different perspectives as to how you can portray lore, how you can tell the lore, so many different visions. That's the fun part. My job is to help people get into the lore behind Warcraft. Why would I not want more people to accept that mission as well and be like, let's geek out together? There is no hatred here. There is no conflict here. There is just a love and a passion for the lore. Share it.
As it should be, 100%. I remember you said something in the previous time we were talking about balance and work and stuff. Like before YouTube, you said you had previous jobs. Can you tell a little bit what did you work before, or how did that go?
My education is, in Dutch it's called sociale dienstverlening, which basically means social worker, I suppose. It was a very broad education, because age 16 I became addicted to WoW, so I didn't really care about my future education. But at some point I had to do something. And so I just picked the broadest education I could find. There's a little bit of law, there's a little bit of aiding people. Again, the idea of I want to help people. From finishing that education, I got into a job at a health insurance. Be it, first it was sales, so people would call me for advice, I would advise them, and then it was customer service, helping people. From there, my grandmother actually advised me, why don't you go into healthcare? Thuiszorg, as we call it. We are very much about leaving the elderly at home as much as possible instead of putting them in a home, and then offer them basic healthcare, which was, I didn't think it was going to be for me. But man, did I enjoy that job. Like the things that you do, dressing people and helping them get ready for the day and medication and whatnot. Those are things that become automatic. But it's those little moments where you can sit down with somebody else, especially at that age, loneliness kills. And you can just, spend 5 minutes with them with a cup of coffee and just talk to them. How are you doing? How are you feeling? In the back of your mind, you're registering, like, is their health doing right? And are they, responsive or whatnot?
Yeah.
But for them, and for you as well, it's a connection that you build with somebody, and you're helping them pass on a little bit through the day. In that department, I really wanted to go further. I enrolled into an education in which I could potentially become like a nurse. I think that's the rough translation for it. And that also meant that I had to move from the area I was working right now, different area, for an internship. At first, in the area that I work right now, I quickly realized, like, a mill in healthcare, actually a big mill, 1 meter, 90 centimeters, big guy standing in front of your door. People are sometimes looking at you like, who are you? What are you going to do? And over time, I was able to win them to my side. At some point, they didn't want to be held by a mill, except if it was me, right? So I earned my stripes in that department. But then I moved to a new area, and I had to do it all over again. And this one was a little bit more religious, a little bit more held back. So I ended up with a route that was cut in half simply because I was a guy. And I was like, well, that sucks. I'm here to help people. They don't want my help. I'm just, adding stress to planners and to the work, as well as the education itself was just really, really difficult. And I decided, this wasn't what I expected. It sucks. So I went back to my old zone, my old area where I worked for a little bit. And that is when the YouTube started to pick off.
Oh, that's super cool. So I don't know if you guys listening and watching have noticed this, but there's a common string here in Nobbel's journey. Because I think we're helping. Like, he's really into helping people. It's like super, and now I can understand the noble part of it. It's really noble to help people. Is there any connection with your name in some sorts? I don't know.
Not about my character, no. It's a nickname that was given to me by a mate of mine in our teenage years, and it just kind of stuck. I also did not design this channel with the idea of many people are going to know the name. Otherwise, I would not have called it Nobbel 87. I would have called it something grander. I don't know. Yeah. Something spectacular that would get many, many eyes on it. But no, it was just a nickname, really.
Right. This is actually super cool, and we're both super thankful for you being this open and sharing a lot of this stuff. I think it's really interesting, and my belief is that a lot of your community and our community as well don't really know much about what's behind all of the videos and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty cool. We can take the time and talk about something else and actually learn a little about from your journey and so on. So thank you for being this open. Again, I'm blown away by all the talk so far.
We're strong advocates of being as transparent as possible, and
yeah,
I gotta say I'm still thinking about it. I've never heard people talk about their aspirations and their willingness to help, and I think the world needs more of that as well. I think there's an innate need for people to to coexist together, and I don't know. I just feel like whenever I'm in a community where people are actively interested in everybody else feeling good and having a great time and enjoying themselves, I feel like everything is just smoother. And I don't know, maybe it's just the contrast with today's society. I feel like, I don't know, we need a little bit more of that. Do you regret not doing it anymore, or do you have any thoughts of going back to being?
Do I regret not doing it anymore? No, I do not regret the choice that I made. Otherwise, I wouldn't be where I am today. Do I miss it? Yeah, I miss my clients, and I wonder what happened to them, and I miss doing that job a lot. That's not to say that I don't enjoy this one, of course. And when it comes to transparency, what I do want to give away to people is, if you're looking at a streamer or a YouTuber, and especially if you are inclined to put them on a pedestal, don't. Everybody has a story behind them. Everybody has experiences that you do not see. You see what the broadcaster, what the person wants you to see. So of course, I am very much about helping and being open and answering questions and whatnot. But it doesn't mean that you know the entire person behind it, which I'm actually very happy about that we could discuss it in this segment. We could talk about what my role been about, because you don't often, more it's about what's the lore, where it's going to go, where's the story. So it's kind of cool for me as well to be talking oh, yeah, that's how it happened and that's how it got here. But more to the point, know that when it comes to people on the internet, Instagram pictures, fantastic lives at the beach and constantly cocktails and chilling and whatnot.
Bullshit.
Everybody has their own day-to-day struggles, I know.
Yeah, I feel it's weird because we're approaching a point where people are starting to recognize us in game, and it's not something I don't know how to deal with that. I never particularly thought about it or wanted it, because I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy with a keyboard and a mouse, and it's fine. I like talking with people. I like making connections and discovering. I actually find people fascinating, and I take my time whenever I meet an interesting person to talk and see what they go through, how is life for them, and that's kind of what I want to interact with people. And it's nice when a lot of people are on the same page with this. It's like you said, streaming and YouTube, there has to be a little bit of an entertainment aspect of it, because you do want to send a specific message, or you want to showcase something. So whenever you want to to accentuate one point, you underline it, and by underlining it as a concept, you kind of like put everything a little bit to the side. But that whole thing that you're putting to the side, that's still what makes you whole. That's still a part of you, right? So yeah, it's not. We're not. Don't put people on pedestals, but you know, getting to know people is actually how you can make a real connection, I feel.
Yeah.
What you just said, like I'm just a guy. When you're talking to people, hold on to that. No matter how many times people are like, you are the greatest person in the world. I love you, love you, love you. We are all just people. We are all just sharing this community, and it's a really good mindset to have. I'm just a person. Let me talk to you. I think. And it's understandable because I geek out about people as well, right? I also about people that I'm like, oh, hello, how are you? I'm Nobbel. I know I'm just an insect in your shadow. But it's a good mindset to have. Like, I'm just a person, you're just a person. Hang out.
Coolio. All right, so we're getting closer to the end. It's been a super cool conversation and ride. But there's this one more curiosity, or I don't know. We'll just have to see. So there's always this thing, especially like in the last 10 years, like, you know, always improving yourself and, you know, getting a lot of information on acquiring new skills or whatever. So in terms of, I don't know, becoming a better version of yourself, is there any book you would recommend, or any, I don't know, any podcast that you listen when you have the time, anything like that? Is there anything that you go to when you feel like you want to like get better at something, or, you know, just become a better human being, or a better editor, or whatever, or a better, I don't know, get things done guy?
Is an amazing question, and I've never had that question before. So my brain right now is going like, oh my God, what is my answer? When it comes to developing myself, currently my focus is really aimed at the health section, right? I want to get better into shape. So somebody that helped me, even indirectly, is called Bajira. And on stream, he made a comment like, oh yeah, Nobbel, that's the story guy. I'm here working on my own story. And that resonated with me. It's like, hang on a minute. I love telling stories, but making your own story sounds pretty cool as well. How exactly do I want to do that? And then I started thinking to myself, like, okay, this is my story right now. This is what I've done. Where do I want to end up to? And what are the steps in my mind that I'm going to take in order to get there? So indirectly, Bajira has helped me a lot. If I'm going to name people, there are too many, by the way, there are too many to name, because it's mostly indirectly where I'm like listening. I'm definitely listening to what you're saying. Jesse Cox and Total Biscuit and Dodger and Krendor and the game station back in the day taught me a whole lot about what it means to make these, because they did interviews like this back in the day as well, where they shared their experience and information when it comes to the channels, how to advertise yourself, how to not be afraid to advertise yourself, how to be proud in the content that you make, but also find a balance in it. So that's been really, really cool. And then in my personal life, I'm lucky enough to have some good people around me that are sensible enough to disagree with me. Like, how often do you not meet people who are like, oh, you know, yeah, you're right. But people that are willing to disagree with you, they earn points for Gryffindor right now. So I hold those people close, and they give me a lot of insight on who I used to be, what path I've walked, because seeing it on the outside is always a lot easier than seeing it from the inside, and then where I can still go.
It's actually really good, because we can. I feel like we can grow more when we have, you know, when we have an open mind to learn from other people, and usually that comes in forms of disagreements, and, you know, let's say a milder version of conflict, because kind of that's how nature grows. It has conflict and resolution, and that's just how we become better, and that's part of what makes people so amazing, because, you know, everybody's so different, and that's what makes the world interesting. Because if everybody was the same, and if we all had the same train of thought, if we all have the same principles, it would be boring, and it wouldn't be much to learn. And learning and becoming better, I feel like it's how we progress as human beings, as humanity.
I love you right now. That is such an amazing mindset to have, because how many people don't just want you to conform to their ideas instead of still keeping their mind open and listening? And to draw that back to when you're working on YouTube, on Twitch, know that you are going to get negative comments, and it is a challenge to figure out which comments are there to tear you down, which comments are there to actually leave feedback and potentially improve yourself. And sometimes it's easy. If somebody comments like you should throw yourself in front of a bus because you roll your R's, it's easy to say like that's just trying to tear me down. But then sometimes it's really difficult to swallow that pride and say, you know what, you're right, I could have improved that aspect. I could have improved that aspect. And once you are able to let go of the ego, right, you can still be proud of your content, but let go of the ego and be prepared for feedback and potentially improve yourself, you'll find that your content actually becomes better. It is great to listen to the comments. Human nature will always be that the negative ones resound harder than the good ones. That is why the paper reports on bad news instead of good news. This is how we are. But the point being, find a balance between these are comments worth listening to and these are comments worth ignoring, and do not let those comments stop you from being who you potentially could be, would be my advice.
That's amazing. I was actually going to ask like a couple, if you would summarize your whole energy right now and your whole intention of going through life like in one sentence, what would that be in case like you wanted to transmit a message to people, to viewers, to listeners?
Energy that I'm currently trying to portray into the world is I've made many mistakes, but I will never stop learning from those. Try to be better every single day. And if I can make one person's day a little bit better, then that will be enough. Yeah.
That's
was that one sentence? I'm gonna go with that. That was one
let's
sentence.
just call it one sentence.
Now, what a question! Like, what kind of energy do you want to portray through? I don't know. I just want to talk lore. I just want to chill and talk lore. What kind of energy? The happy kind. Why wouldn't you try to add to people's happess? Now.
Yeah, it's true. It's a challenging question, man. I mean,
I love it though. It's a good one.
We try to put little bits of nasty, not nasty, but more challenging stuff to like actually make the brain flow a little bit deeper, But I think it's a really great way to close out our first episode of MoCast. Again, it has been humbling and really chill and nice. Surprisingly comfortable to sit down with Nobbel and have a chat. And I'm glad once again and thankful that he was so open and didn't have a problem on answering anything. Obviously, if you probably already know, but just for, I don't know, structure's sakes or whatever, you can find Nobbel on twitch.tv/Nobbel87 and on youtube.com/Nobbel87. Twitter, I didn't put the Twitter there.
Nobbel87, I imagine. Just type in Nobbel87, inserts your platform, and you'll probably run into me. Honestly, if you guys keep this kind of energy and these kind of questions for the future podcast as well, because you are welcoming as well, and you're very easy to talk to. I can see one heck of a podcast growing out of this. This is fantastic, honestly.
Thank you. It means a whole lot.
Yeah, you made it very easy, to be honest, because I had my own reservations. Like, man, I've been watching this guy for like years. I never thought I was gonna talk to him in person. It was so cool, and being open and being relaxed eased up the tension a bit, and. I'm really happy and I'm really, really honored and humbled that you accepted to be on our podcast, and hope we can talk more in the future as well. Yeah.
Like a year from now, we're gonna have our 1-year anniversary and we'll get Nobbel back in and talk about some other new challenging or whatever stuff. But thank you everybody for tuning in, for listening or watching. Next episode is going to be on next week. Be sure to be subscribed to youtube.com/MarcelianOnline or check us out on Spotify. And that's about it. Thank you once again, Nobbel. Thank you, Mr. Flame.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I'ma do it /bow. Still I play WoW. Still I play WoW.